The explosion threw me off my feet before I even understood what was happening. 1 second I was standing in my father's wheat field, watching the sky light up with falling stars. The next second, the ground shook so hard my teeth rattled, and a wall of heat rushed past me like an open oven door. I hit the dirt hard, ears ringing, heart slamming against my ribs. When I lifted my head, the north field was on fire. Not the whole field, just a deep, smoking crater where something had slammed into the earth like a fist from the sky. Twisted metal stuck out of the dirt at broken angles. Smoke poured upward in thick black ropes. My name is Daniel, and up until that night, the strangest thing that had ever happened to me was a tornado warning. I should have run back to the house. I should have called for help. Instead, my legs carried me straight toward the wreck, because somewhere inside that smoke, I heard something crying. Not an animal, not the wind, a voice. I climbed down into the crater with my hands shaking, coughing on the smoke, and what I found stopped my heart cold. A girl, or something shaped like a girl. She was pressed against a broken piece of hull, one arm bent wrong, blood the color of a bruised evening sky leaking from a gash in her side. Her skin had a faint shine to it, almost like it was catching light that wasn't there. Her eyes, when they found mine, were a deep violet, wide with pain and pure terror. She screamed the moment she saw me, a raw, desperate sound, and she tried to scramble back, except there was nowhere left to go. Hey, stop, it's okay." My voice came out shaky, but I kept my hands up, empty, and dropped to my knees so I wasn't looming over her. "I'm not going to hurt you, I promise." She didn't understand a word. Of course she didn't. But something in my tone must have reached her, because her screaming cracked into ragged, frightened breathing instead. I had exactly one thing going for me in that moment. My mother was a nurse for 20 years, and she never let me leave the house without a proper first aid kit in my truck. I sprinted back up out of that crater, grabbed the kit, and slid back down before I could talk myself out of any of it. Blood is blood, more or less, no matter where it comes from. Pressure stops bleeding. Keeping still stops shock. I didn't know her biology, but I knew fear, and I knew that fighting fear with calm was the only tool I had. "I'm going to touch your side now," I said, slow and steady, even though she couldn't understand the words. "It's going to hurt for a second, and then it's going to feel better." She flinched when I pressed the gauze against the wound, but she didn't fight me. Her breathing slowed, just slightly, like some small part of her had decided to trust me, even without understanding a single word I said. Her wrist was bent at an angle that made my stomach turn, so I splintered it the only way I knew how, using a broken tent pole and a strip of tape from the kit. She whimpered but held still, watching my face instead of my hands, like she was reading my intentions instead of my actions. By the time I got her stable enough to move, my arms were shaking from the effort of half carrying, half dragging her out of that crater. I didn't think about what I was doing. I just did it. I got her into my truck, drove the short distance back to the house, and laid her down in my sister's old bedroom, propping pillows around her side to keep pressure on the wound. She watched me the entire time, silent and wide-eyed, like she expected me to turn into something cruel the second she let her guard down. I brought her a bowl of warm broth, because it was the only thing in the kitchen soft enough and simple enough that it felt safe to offer. She stared at it for a long moment before finally, carefully, drinking it down. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, she finally slept. I did not. I sat in the doorway of that room with my father's old shotgun across my knees, not aimed at her, never at her, but there all the same, because some instinct deep in my gut told me the sky was not finished with us yet. I was right. At dawn, the metal band still fastened to her wrist began to glow, a soft blue pulse, slow at first, then faster, like a heartbeat racing toward something. I stared at it, my own pulse climbing to match, and less than an hour later, the sky answered back. It did not look like a spaceship. It looked like a piece of the horizon that had decided to become a ceiling. It came down without a sound, except for a low hum that I felt in my teeth more than heard, and it settled over the north field like it had always belonged there. I did not run. I do not know why. Maybe because running felt pointless. Maybe because some part of me needed to see this through to the end, whatever that end turned out to be. Figures dropped from the ship first, armored and fast, moving with the kind of precision that told me they had never once lost a fight in their lives. They spread out around my house in seconds, and every one of them carried a weapon that hummed with barely contained power. I stood on my porch with my hands loose at my sides, heart hammering, and I did not reach for the shotgun leaning against the doorframe. I just hoped that whatever was coming, it came for me, and not for the girl still resting inside. Then the line of soldiers parted, and she walked through. I knew before a single word was spoken that this was the girl's mother. It was not just the shape of her eyes, or the same faint shine to her skin. It was the way every soldier on that field turned toward her, the way plants turn toward the sun. It was the crown resting on her brow, dark and sharp-edged, humming faintly with the same restrained energy as the weapons around me. She crossed the field with a pace that was somehow both calm and completely unstoppable, and when she stopped in front of my porch steps, the whole morning seemed to hold its breath. "Where," she said, in clear, steady English, translated by something I could not see, "is my daughter?" My voice came out rough but steady. "Inside. Resting. She's hurt, but stable." I did what I could with what I had. Something flickered across that composed, powerful face. Not disbelief exactly, more like she was recalculating everything she had expected to find here. "You found her," she said slowly, "injured, alone, defenseless. And you did not sell her. You did not experiment on her. You did not use her to threaten my empire's arrival." "She's a kid," I said, and I heard how obvious it sounded, even as the words left my mouth. She was scared and bleeding. What else was I supposed to do? The Empress studied me for a long, quiet moment, and behind her, more than one soldier shifted uneasily, like they were witnessing something that did not match whatever briefing they had been given about my kind. "We have crossed many worlds," she said quietly, "and in every one, when the weak wash up on someone else's shore, they are taken, used, sold for profit or power. Your species was described to me as dangerous, unpredictable, a people who fight over inches of land and call it glory. I expected to find cruelty here. With respect," I said, "you're standing in my field with an army pointed at my house. I'm not sure I'm the dangerous one in this conversation." For just a moment, something like the ghost of a smile crossed her face, before it vanished back into that unreadable calm. "Take me to her." I led her inside, past soldiers who kept a respectful distance, up to the small bedroom where her daughter was just beginning to stir awake. The reunion that followed was not something I needed to watch closely. Some moments are not meant for strangers to study, but I heard the girl say one word, over and over, in a language I did not understand, and I did not need a translator to know exactly what it meant. Later, after healers I could not explain had come and gone, and after the enormous ship on my north field had folded itself down to something slightly less enormous, the Empress found me alone on the porch again. "You will be rewarded," she said, "beyond anything your people could imagine. Land, knowledge, power that could reshape your entire world. I don't want any of that." She studied me the way someone studies a puzzle that refuses to make sense. "Then what do you want, farmer?" I thought about it. Really thought about it, because it felt like the only question in this entire night that actually mattered. Just make sure she's okay, that's all. And maybe don't tell every world out there that people like me are the monsters. We're not. We just can't stand watching something get hurt when we could have stopped it. The Empress went quiet for a long moment, looking out over the crater in my father's field. "Many worlds," she said, almost to herself. "And this is the first time anyone has asked me for nothing at all." She turned to leave, then paused at the edge of the porch. The reports about your people call you reckless, unpredictable, a fire that burns everything it touches. She looked back at me, and for the first time, there was something in her eyes that looked almost like respect. I understand now why they say that. You are not dangerous despite your kindness, farmer. You are dangerous because of it. A people willing to risk everything to protect one frightened child is not a people to be underestimated. The ship rose from my field before sunset, quiet and enormous, and within a few minutes, it was gone, swallowed back into the sky it came from. I never learned the name behind that crown, or the true name of the girl I had patched up with tape and warm broth. But some nights, when the stars are clear and the sky feels close enough to touch, I still sit on the hood of my truck and watch for falling lights. And sometimes, just for a second, one of those lights seems to slow down, like it is saying hello, before it disappears back into the dark.